Welcome back viewers, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries and anyone with ears or other sound detection organs. Hope you enjoy. We are continuing with Going Native, written by Uncle Sealing. Going Native, Chapter 26. The two Shilvati were checking the traps, bundled up as best they could. Ellara's hat had been dragged off by some animal while she was getting dequilled, and her new one was Iing's first attempt at doing some leather craft. It was not the best. Ellara said it was warm and seemed to cherish it, but every time Iing saw that lumpy, uneven mess he just remembered how much of an asset they had in Stace. "You want to talk about Stace, don't you?" Iing stopped. "How could you tell?" Ellara smirked. "You always get this weird look on your face when you're thinking about him. Like you aren't sure if you want to fuck or fight. Plus there's not much else to talk about out here. I love him dearly, but he is exasperating sometimes. Most times. Still don't want him leaving the cabin, I take it. It's too dangerous. What if Stace gets hurt again? He's already missing most of a foot, half an ear, has an arm that doesn't work, and oh yeah, we cut off his leg. Only half of it." Ellara smirked. "Besides, all of those were his fault. We're going to keep him safe. He wants to go ice fishing. The whole reason he wants to do it instead of us is because it's not safe. His reason for being the one to do it is the reason he shouldn't. Well, what other options do we have? We need the food, and I'm not confident in my ability to shoot anything with that weird rifle. The river is right there, and Stace knows how to get the food out of it. You just want, what did Stace call it? Water meat." Ellara mumbled something, but Iing didn't quite catch it. "What was that?" "I said that if one of my two boyfriends don't give me meat soon, I'll drag it out of the goddess-damned river with my teeth." Iing blushed. "Oh. That." Iing wanted to consummate the relationship with Ellara, but then Stace was there, and he didn't know what to do with another male, and it was fun to tease the two of them, and it was all just so awkward all the time. "Stace won't do it since you somehow managed to tell him I'm a virgin. He said he's afraid that he's too beat up to give me a properly enjoyable experience." Okay, that was hilarious, but sad. They would need to do something about their human self-esteem. "What, he thinks you're a blushing boy having his first time? Did you tell him about all the clam slams you and your pod had?" Ellara's face went dark with a sudden flush. Iing was seriously starting to think that the entertainment value of this alone almost made up for the chronic purple balls. "That's different, and you know it. It's just gals being pals, blowing off steam. And if Stace and I started really going at it, would that be just guys blowing off steam?" If Ellara's face got any more flushed, she'd probably set fire. Iing could see her pupils dilating at the thought. "I guess. I really don't know. The idea is just so damn weird. Hot, though." Ellara reset another trap and they continued the walk. The snares were arranged in a circular loop around the cabin, a trek of half a kilometre or so trudging through the snow. It was basically every nightmare Iing had ever had about being outside, but at least there was company. "We're going to have to explain Shilvati relationships to Stace. And figure out our own relationship. Unless you're a secret noble and can handle having two husbands, this situation could get pretty bad. Considering that Stace has literally been living in the woods to avoid that sort of thing, it's our duty to tell him now." Ellara nodded. "If I was nobility, I'd probably have rubbed it in your face a time or two by now." She let out a harumph, then continued. "All right, I'll make a deal with you. I'll give Stace the talk, if you let me take him outside. Otherwise you have to tell him. I just hope he'll still be willing to talk to us at all after this." "Well, this is awkward. The two aliens had just returned to the cabin, carrying a pair of snowshoe hares, to find Stace sprawled out on the floor. The chair was upturned next to him. This was not going to look good. "Stace, are you okay?" The hares hit the floor and the pair of Shilvati were at his side, helping him sit up. I'm fine. Dropped my pad, got down here to get it, can't get back up." Once they got him sitting up, the two sat down on the floor on either side of him. Oh boy. This didn't bode well. "We need to have a talk." Ella apparently thought this was important enough to switch to English, which also set off alarm bells. Usually that phrase is followed by someone breaking up with you. Ella blanched. No, not like that. It is, relationship related though. I'm already on the floor, so if you and I want to borrow the bed now is a perfect time. She didn't even grin. Apparently this was more serious than Stace thought. "We need to tell you about how Shilvati relationships work, and what it's going to be like once we get out of here." Stace nodded. This talk he expected. The human thing. It's, what? It's pretty weird to date outside your species. I can see why it might not be accepted. No. That's not it at all. Dating outside your species is pretty normal, especially with humans. Are you telling me humans are the galaxy's perverts? Kinda. It has more to do with the gender ratio thing. This was clearly making Ella uncomfortable to talk about. Best to peel the bandage off quick. Well, humans have about a 1-to-1 sex ratio. So if it's a thing, then Shilvati have it different. What's the number? About 8-to-1. 8 males to 1 female is pretty weird. I suppose it might cause issues for Ieng, having his wife and now you. They might think he's getting greedy. Stace nodded to himself. Makes some sense. No, Stace. It's the other way. That makes absolutely no sense. Scientifically. I'm a marine, not a biologist. I don't know the science behind it. Nearly every sentient species out there has a lot more women than men. A species like humans is really rare. Stace had a bit of an inkling where this was going, and he didn't like it. Still, he'd guessed wrong twice now and wasn't going to try it a third time. How about an example? Tell me what your family is like, Ella. Okay. There's my dad, obviously, and my mom. I also have 5. I guess the closest English term would be stepmoms. Co-moms. I have a brother and 11 sisters. My brother is going to school to be a nurse and all of my sisters who are old enough have joined the Marines. No stepdads. Ella shook her head sadly. No, I'm not from a noble house. Only them and the Empress have multiple husbands. It's greedy otherwise. Not done. So if you and me and Ieng all get together, you'd be overstepping your bounds by having multiple husbands. That got a nod. Stace took the train of thought to its natural conclusion. And if Ieng and I get together, that's treated like taking the guys from 16 women? Yeah, guys getting together is just, well, it's not done. And there it was. If Stace was going to go back out into the world, he would have to deal with the same sort of shit that made him leave in the first place. There was a solution, of course. It would make things awkward, and it would hurt a lot, but in the long term it would probably be best for everyone. I'm sure you and Ieng will be very happy together. Ella, what in the deep did he just say? The words seemed to come from far away. Ella was stunned, not resisting as Stace scooted out from between the two of them to sit next to the fire. Ella. I think he just broke up with us. It made a sort of stupid sense. If being with her and Ian would hurt the two of them, he was just the sort of obstinate idiot to make that decision. Stace. We need to. No. Let me be alone. Ellora watched as Ian tried to hold him, but Stace just squirmed his shoulders and tried to get away. Instead, Ian turned to face her, face full of anger and pain. This is your fault. What did you tell him? I just told him the truth. We knew he might not take it well. It wasn't her fault. Right? Damn it, you're right. Ian seemed to deflate as his anger ebbed. What exactly did he say? He said that you and me will be happy together. Ellora thought about it and came to a sobering realization. He's wrong, though. What? Ian looked confused. Damn it, why did Ellora have to be the one figuring this out? Out of the three of them, she was the only one who hadn't been married, didn't have any experience with this sort of shit. You and I won't work without Stace. We wouldn't be happy knowing he abandoned us so we could be together. He's a part of this as much as either of us, and it's all or nothing. Ian thought about it. So what can we do? Just pretend it won't be a problem? That doesn't seem like it is a good solution long term. Once we're out of here things might get really rough, especially for you and Marion. Having two guys won't be taken well. Ellora thought about it. Outside was politics and culture and nobility, but here, in the cabin with her two men and porcupines and frostbite and wolves, it all seemed so far away. So small. This was harsh reality, and all that nebulous trouble outside didn't mean a goddess-damned thing here. You know what? I think I just now realized that I really could not give less of a shit what anybody else thinks. Ian grinned. Me neither. Even if he was fairly broad-shouldered, all the weight the human had lost made it easy for Ian to wrap his lilac arms around Stace. He stiffened and tried to pull away, but really Stace couldn't do anything as Ian dragged him back towards the bed. Come on, Stace, we're going to have a cuddle and a talk. Nothing to talk about. Stace was gruff and had basically gone limp to make it more difficult to drag him. It was like dealing with one of Ian's little sisters. That's Turox shit. We need to talk logistics. What is a Turox? And what is logistics? Of course, as soon as you give Stace a mystery he got a lot less dour. Makes sense. A Turox is a food animal. Logistics is planning and organizing. Planning for what? Ian nodded to Ellora, who leaned down and grabbed Stace's legs at the knees. With a yelp, the human flew through the air and landed on the bed with a thump. For what we're going to do with our dumbass boyfriend? No. Yes, you are. We're not going to let you give up on us just because you're scared. I'm not scared. Stace raised one thin arm to forestall Ian's reply. I am. Shit, how do I explain this in Shill? Tired. Tired of relationship pain. Last time almost killed me. Last time you were alone. We're with you and we're not going to let you get hurt again. Ian moved to straddle Stace, then kept rolling until he was on one side. Ellora got the hint and came up on the other. Rolling the human onto his side was easy, and soon Stace was pinned, the middle spoon wrapped around Ian, both engulfed in Ellora's arms. See? This is nice. Ellora pulled all of them tight together. And now you can't just try to crawl away from your worries. So, Stace, here's our question for you, what do you want? When I asked what you wanted, I was expecting sex. You were hoping sex. Stace and Ellora stood at the edge of the frozen river, bundled up against the chill. Elora had carried him out on her back, which Stace would never admit to her was kind of fun, and now she was holding him steady while he used a long length of wood to strike the ice. Iing stood to the side with a broom. The ice feels nice and firm. Here, you try. Elora knocked the ice with the stick, then nodded and passed it to Iing. The little guy took the stick in both hands and slammed it against the ice as hard as he could. The resounding thud echoed in the still air, but aside from that nothing happened. Okay, Iing, please brush. Cautiously, avoiding stepping onto the ice at all costs, Iing used the broom to clean off the ice. It was clear and dark, with no voids. Stace leaned alarmingly forward to inspect the ice, trusting Elora to hold him up. Looks good. Should be clear and thick. Not white or grey. At least this thick. He held out his hands about 10 centimeters apart. This thick or more is safe to walk on. How can we tell if it's that thick? Iing sounded skeptical and a little frightened. Stace grinned. We make a hole and look. Ice looks good for now, so let's go back inside, warm up, and get prepared. Back inside, Stace inspected his homemade tip-ups and other ice fishing gear. He would have been happy sitting out there with a pole, but he was certain his new little family wouldn't let him actually go out on the ice. Even with a more automated setup, they could supplement their diet and he would feel a lot less useless. The tip-ups sat on the ice attached to a line in the water. If something pulled the line, a long thin dowel with a strip of cloth tied to it would raise up in the air. Stace had intentionally made them long enough that they were clearly visible from the window in the front of the cabin. When Elora had asked Stace what he wanted, feeling safe and warm in bed with his two aliens, it took him a while to formulate a reply. He hadn't really considered the question, he had been numb for so long, then was so focused on keeping the Shilvati alive that his own happiness wasn't a huge priority. What did Stace really want? It was more what he didn't want. Stace didn't want to be useless, and he didn't want to be alone. Once it was made clear to him that the three were going to be together and Stace wasn't going to be able to just abandon the Shilvati to their own relationship, Elora and Iing had wanted to celebrate. Elora in particular seemed to have a very carnal sort of celebration in mind. However, Stace had to remind them that work came first. The two hares had to be processed, then Stace wanted to do some ice fishing. They weren't going to get nearly enough food for the three of them just by trapping. How do we make the holes in the ice? Iing was clearly terrified of the thought of falling into the water, which was understandable. Thankfully, Stace had done this dozens of times, even before he had gone into seclusion. Hot rocks. What? Slide a hot rock onto the ice, let it make a hole. So that's what those flat rocks in the fireplace are for. Yep. I dry them out over the summer so they don't explode in the fire. Elora stood on the ice and gently flexed her legs, bouncing up and down. She had used Stace's bit brace to drill some test holes and found that the ice was plenty thick to support her weight. Supposedly, Iing had volunteered to go onto the ice since he was the lightest of the three that could actually walk, but no way was Elora going to let the cute little guy go into danger. She was the woman and a marine. This was her job. Plus, Stace's confidence about the whole thing once he had inspected the holes made her feel a lot better about the situation. He hadn't steered them wrong yet. She set up 3 tip-up fish traps where she figured holes would be best, then nodded to Iing. He ran off to get the first rock, leaving Stace leaning against a tree. They stood in comfortable silence. Well, somewhat comfortable. Even with 4 layers, Elora was pretty sure her snatch was starting to freeze shut. She needed a distraction. So, Stace. What's next? Next we make the holes. No, I mean after that. Once we set up these fish traps and get back inside. Food is cooking, Traps are set, Iing and I have plenty of firewood chopped. Want to read some more of Princess of Mars? Try making one of those board games you have on your pad. Stace was silent, seeming deep in thought. Ian came stumbling back, holding a steaming bundle of leather. He handed it to Elora, who carefully walked back onto the ice, unwrapped the rock, and plopped it down next to a tip-up, where it sputtered and rapidly began to sink. Finally, Stace answered the question. Next, I figure we can go inside and have some sex. Elora turned to the Iing so quickly that her feet slipped alarmingly and she almost fell, windmilling her arms to keep her balance. Go get the other rocks. Now. End of chapter. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss any episode and do all the other YouTube stuff, visit and support the author, and I'll see you next time. If you didn't enjoy, comment on what I can do better. And as usual, have a wonderful day.